Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar, coming up in the next hour. India's External Affairs Minister delivers suo motu statement in both houses of Parliament on Bangladesh unrest. Says at very short notice, Sheikh Hasina requested approval to come for the moment to India. Bangladesh Parliament is dissolved. Major reshuffle in Army's top brass. Major General Ziaul Ahsan has been sacked from telecom monitoring services. The BNP leader Khalida Zia is released from house arrest. US Vice President Kamala Harris picks Tim Walz as a running mate for the presidential election. He was first elected Minnesota governor in 2018 and then re-elected in 2022. And tension in West Asia intensifies. The Russian president asks Iran to avoid civilian casualties in its response to Israel. Tehran says its response to Hania assassination will be severe. And in the Paris Olympics, the defending champion Neeraj Chopra qualifies for the javelin throw final with an emphatic first throw, just inches short of 90 meters. Bangladesh's President Mohammad Shahabuddin dissolved parliament and paved the way for an interim government to be formed. The president's office also announced that the leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Begum Khalida Zia, a former prime minister, had been freed from house arrest. Our Dhaka correspondent Naval Singh Parmar reports that there have been changes made to the top-level army personnel, with the Lieutenant General Saiful Islam being appointed to the Foreign Ministry. This report gives us an idea of the ground situation. Sifting through the wreckage, collecting souvenirs, or from another point of view, just looting the residence of Bangladesh's former Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. Widespread destruction of public property has left people wondering whether such anger is misplaced.
The vandalism I have seen, it was simply heartbreaking to see it as a citizen. These are all public property, not hers. When will it be restored? Our taxes will be used to fix it.
Local TV reported Bangladesh's President Mohammad Shahabuddin Chuppu having dissolved parliament on Tuesday, paving the way for an interim government to be formed. Hasina resigned and left the country following a violent crackdown on the student-led uprising. The angry youth still have their demands.
We sincerely hope everyone gets justice. Every death must be accounted for.
We will not accept any other government other than the one proposed by us. We will not accept the government supported by the military or the fascists. Any proxy government or government against the people will not be accepted.
Bangladesh Nationalist Party chairperson Begum Khalida Zia, a former prime minister, was freed from house arrest. The president's office in a statement said parliament was dissolved following meetings with heads of defense forces, leaders of political parties, student leaders and some civil society representatives. The student leaders said they want Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus as the chief advisor to the interim government. A spokesperson for the 84-year-old Yunus said he had agreed. He had described Monday's events as the second liberation day for Bangladesh after its 1971 War of Independence from Pakistan. Bureau Report, DD India. And world leaders have expressed concern over the political turmoil in Bangladesh and called for calm and restraint. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar made suo motu statements, as we said, in both houses of Parliament and also briefed the all-party meeting convened by the government over the crisis in the neighbouring country. The External Affairs Minister said that India remains deeply concerned with the situation in Bangladesh until law and order is restored. Here's a report by Raghav Kumar Jha. India's concern for its close ally Bangladesh, that plunged into political turmoil after Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's resignation and her leaving the country, was clearly visible among the political dispensation of India. On Tuesday, the government convened an all-party meeting in New Delhi, where External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar briefed the leaders over the crisis in the neighbouring country. Different political parties extended their support to the government on the issue. Later, External Affairs Minister made suo motu statements in both houses of parliament over the situation in Bangladesh. Addressing the upper house, the EAM said, the country remains deeply concerned with the situation in Bangladesh until law and order is restored. He said that border guarding forces have been instructed to be exceptionally alert in view of the complex situation. Jaishankar confirmed Sheikh Hasina's arrival in Delhi on Monday after a request of approval came at short notice.
At very short notice, she requested approval to come for the moment to India. We simultaneously received a request for flight clearance from Bangladesh authorities. She arrived yesterday evening in Delhi.
The EAM said that there are an estimated 19,000 Indian nationals in Bangladesh, and he assured the House that India is in close and constant touch with them through its diplomatic missions.
We are in close and continuous touch with the Indian community in Bangladesh through our diplomatic missions. There are an estimated 19,000 Indian nationals there, of which about 9,000 are students.
Meanwhile, the United Nations, the US, UK, EU and other global actors have called for calm in Bangladesh. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for a peaceful, orderly and democratic transition, as well as a full, independent, impartial and transparent investigation into all acts of violence. The US Department of State spokesperson Matthew Miller said, "Too many lives have been lost over the course of the past several weeks, and we urge calm and restraint in the days ahead. We want to see the Bangladeshi people decide the future Bangladeshi government." UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy said, "The people of Bangladesh deserve a full and independent UN-led investigation into the events of the past few weeks." The European Union called for an orderly and peaceful transition to democratic rule in Bangladesh. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said, "The EU calls for calm and restraint. It is vital that an orderly and peaceful transition towards a democratically elected government is ensured in full respect of human rights and democratic principles." Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in a statement said, "Moscow hopes for a speedy return of internal political processes in constitutional norms in a country friendly to us." Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri hoped for a swift return to peace. In a statement he said, "We believe in the resilience and unity of the Bangladeshi nation and hope for a swift return to peace and stability." The World Bank has also expressed its concern over the political crisis in Bangladesh. The World Bank said it is assessing the impact of events in Bangladesh on its loan program with the South Asian country. Raghav Kumar Jha's report, DD India. India's President Draupadi Murmu addressed Fiji's parliament on Tuesday. Fiji conferred its highest civilian award, the Companion of the Order of Fiji, on President Murmu. The president addressed an enthusiastic gathering of Indian diaspora in Fiji. DD India's Anjana Unikrishnan reports from Fiji's capital, Suva.
President Draupadi Murmu's visit to Fiji saw the two sides exchange documentation of project sites for a 100-bedded super speciality hospital in Suva and land for the Chancery and Cultural Centre of the High Commission of India. Earlier in the day, President Murmu received a ceremonial welcome and guard of honour at the Suva airport, followed by a splendid traditional Fijian welcome ceremony. She highlighted the preservation of native traditions as integral to cultural identity and empowerment. The President underscored the shared values between the two nations during her address to the Fijian Parliament.
Our democracy, the diversity of our societies, our creed that all human beings are equal, and our commitment to the liberty, dignity and rights of every individual. These shared values are eternal and shall continue to guide us ahead.
The President also addressed the Indian community and hailed the contribution of the Girmitiyas in the development of Fiji and close ties between the two nations.
अनेक कठिनाइयों के बीच अग्रणी पीढ़ियों द्वारा दिखाया गया दृढ़ संकल्प, उनका संघर्ष और बलिदान और फिर उनकी सफलता एक अद्भुत विरासत है। हम आज आप सभी को और आपके पूर्वजों को याद करते हैं और उनका में स्मृति को हम नमन करते हैं। अपनी सांस्कृतिक पहचान को बरकरार रखते हुए फिजी भारतीय समुदाय ने अपने नई मातृभूमि को अपनाया है और इस महान देश के निर्माण में अपना योगदान दिया है, जो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में आशा की किरण है।
The President paid floral tributes to the statue of Mahatma Gandhi at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial College in Suva. She also laid a wreath at the National War Memorial. As India celebrates 75 years of diplomatic presence in Fiji, the country has become a key partner for India in the Pacific region. With high-profile engagements and action-oriented platforms like FIPIC, this long-standing partnership will be elevated to the next level. With camera person Alok Gupta, this is Anjana Unnikrishnan for DD India, Fiji.
Well, regional cooperation in trade and investment, as well as energy and regional connectivity, gets an impetus at the first BIMSTEC Business Summit in New Delhi. The Minister of State for External Affairs, Pabitra Margarita, inaugurated the business summit.
Appropriate, coming at the buzz after the second BIMSTEC Foreign Ministers Retreat, which I had the honor to attend, and in the lead up to the 6th BIMSTEC Summit, which is less than a month away. I'm confident that this event will impart more momentum to the growing BIMSTEC process and underline India's commitment to it.
It has clearly identified sectors for pursuing regional cooperation. It has the requisite political support of its members. It's ready to engage external developmental partners, and it's ready to reform and repurpose itself based on the forthcoming report of the Eminent Persons Group.
Well, still to come here on DD India News Hour. The U.S. Democratic Party nominee Kamala Harris chooses Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. And there's no end to the UK protests. The government expands the jail capacity. Japan marks the 79th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will decode the most powerful and advanced artillery gun systems, and we'll tell you why India's artillery is world's one of the very best. Designed to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy, India's artillery guns are unparalleled in accuracy and devastating firepower. These Indian systems have redefined the battlefield. This is India's artillery gun system, where strength meets strategy and victory is forged in steel. Watch all exclusive behind-the-scene footage of this amazing piece of artillery technology on DD India this Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris has selected the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate on Tuesday, choosing a progressive policy champion, as he's described, and a plain speaker from America's heartland to win over rural white voters. Now, Harris announced the selection in a text message to supporters, and she said, and I quote, "I'm pleased to share that I've made my decision. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will join our campaign as my running mate." She said that Tim is a battle-tested leader who has an incredible track record of getting things done for Minnesota families. And she said, "I know," and I'm quoting her, I know that he will bring that same principled leadership to our campaign and to the office of the Vice President. And reacting to it, the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said that becoming the running mate of Kamala Harris is a lifetime honor for him. And in a social media post, he said, and I quote, "It is the honor of a lifetime to join Kamala Harris in this campaign. I'm all in. Vice President Harris is showing us the politics of what's possible. It reminds me a bit of the first day of school. So let's get this done, folks. Join us." Unquote. And India correspondent Nick Harper now joins us from Washington, D.C. with more on this story. Well, Nick, just 3 months left for the elections. Does the Harris-Walz ticket, have enough time to convince people of their credentials?
Well, Mark, undoubtedly they are hoping so, although Kamala Harris herself, in announcing Tim Walz, admitted that they are the underdogs. She feels that she has a lot to prove, and there's only about 90 days before that November 5th election. A very interesting choice. Tim Walz coming from Minnesota, a state that the Democrats are expecting to win in November's election. But there are plenty of other things that he brings to the ticket. He is close to battleground states, that important so-called blue wall that Democrats say they need to win to be able to win in November. So Wisconsin, Michigan and Pennsylvania, 3 important swing states. But he also comes to the ticket bringing that ability to speak to rural, white, working class voters, the type of voters that Kamala Harris is trying to take off of the Donald Trump J.D. Vance ticket. She has chosen, like J.D. Vance of Ohio, Donald Trump's vice presidential pick, a person who is very much a man of the people, someone who can speak to those voters, who has lived and worked amongst them for many years. He comes from that rural heartland. He's worked as a teacher, as a football coach before going into politics, and therefore Harris hopes very much knows what makes that type of demographic tick. He will be hitting the campaign trail with Kamala Harris. They're due to appear at a rally in Philadelphia in the coming hours before hitting another 6 or 7 swing states over the course of the next 5 days, trying to barnstorm the country as much as possible to get their message out to voters and to try and win them over, even though they see themselves as the underdog in this fight.
Also, Nick, Kamala Harris was officially declared the Democratic Party candidate. So, I mean, how united is the Democratic Party actually behind her?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we've seen incredible enthusiasm, Mark, from within the party, in particular the grassroots voters out there. A huge surge in support in this less than 2.5 weeks since Joe Biden dropped out of the race. You mentioned that she has now formally become the nominee. That was done by a virtual roll call, something that was meant to last several days. It started last Thursday, was meant to end Monday evening, but by Friday last week, just over 24 hours after the virtual roll call began, we already knew that she had enough support from enough delegates to make her the nominee. It was just waiting until the roll call finished on Monday evening for us to be able to say that she is formally now becoming the Democratic Party's nominee. So we have seen that surge in support, that surge in momentum and enthusiasm within the party. Importantly, though, she needs to make sure that that now translates to all of those undecided voters in those swing states, the very people that will essentially decide this election in November. It's all very well having support and momentum within her own party, but she now needs to speak to those independent voters, really to win them over to her message and her way of thinking before November.
Nick Harper in Washington, D.C. Thanks very much. Tension in West Asia has intensified while the Russian President Vladimir Putin, he's asked Iran to avoid civilian casualties in its response to Israel. Tehran too has said that its response to the Hania assassination is going to be severe. Let's take a look at this story.
Amid simmering tensions in West Asia, diplomatic efforts are also underway for regional de-escalation. Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdullah Bou Habib was in Egypt, where he met his Egyptian counterpart, who pushed for immediate action to halt the escalation. Lebanon Foreign Minister too called for avoiding war.
There is a clear bilateral agreement on the importance of taking immediate action to halt the escalation and address any dangerous repercussions for security and stability in the region. We are working to ensure any response doesn't trigger total war, because it wouldn't benefit any of the countries involved, including Israel. Only those who want to incite conflict would gain from such a situation. We as officials do not want any war.
The Secretary of Russia's Security Council, Sergei Shoigu, met Iran's Rear Admiral Ali Akbar Ahmedian on Monday. A Russian news agency reported on Tuesday that Shoigu discussed about the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Israel says it has carried out an airstrike against what it said was a military structure used by the armed group Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Israeli forces claimed to kill 45 Hamas fighters in Gaza over the past day. On the other hand, Lebanon's armed group Hezbollah warned that its much anticipated retaliation for Israel's killing of a top commander last week was yet to come. Hezbollah leader Saeed Hassan Nasrallah gave a speech at a commemorative ceremony marking the first week since the targeting of Hezbollah's top commander Fuad Shukr. Amid this volatile situation, several countries including the United States, the United Kingdom, France and South Korea have issued advisories and evacuation orders urging their citizens to leave Lebanon immediately. South Korea's foreign ministry on Tuesday advised its nationals in Lebanon and Israel to leave as soon as possible because of escalating tensions. Some airlines have suspended their flights. Delta of the US announced that it will suspend all flights from New York City to Tel Aviv for the remainder of August. The announcement extends a previous suspension that began last week. Germany's Lufthansa said that its planes will avoid Iranian and Iraqi airspaces through 7th August. Iran blames Israel for the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and said it will punish it. However, Israeli officials have not claimed responsibility for the killing. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Indian government on Tuesday once again shared an updated advisory for Indians travelling or residing in Libya due to prevailing security situation there. The Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, Indian nationals are advised to avoid non-essential travel to Libya. Indian nationals in Libya are advised to exercise caution, avoid inter-province travel by road, remain in contact with the Indian Embassy in Tripoli. The emergency phone number is +21 89 43 99 20 46. The UK government has increased its prison capacity, in fact, to help tackle violent, week-long anti-immigrant riots. Its Justice Department, which is being forced to release some prisoners early as it battles overcrowding in jails, and that's a crisis for them, said that 600 prison places had been secured to accommodate those engaged in violence. About 400 people have been arrested so far. Riots across the country and across a number of towns, in fact, and cities erupted after the murder of 3 girls at a Taylor Swift-themed event in Southport, which after false messaging, in fact, on social media wrongly identified the suspected killer as an Islamist migrant. The unrest has prompted India, Australia, Nigeria and other countries to warn their citizens to stay vigilant. Japan on Tuesday marked the 79th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. A memorial service was held at the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park, which was attended by the Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio, Hiroshima Mayor as well, Kazumi Matsui, and others. Kishida called for a world free from nuclear weapons, despite nuclear threats by Russia making it even more challenging. 50,000 participants, including ambassadors from 109 countries, sat at an outdoor memorial ceremony at the park. The Lok Sabha, that's the lower house of India's parliament, paid tributes to the victims of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The house reaffirmed India's commitment to a world free of weapons of mass destruction. The bombs were dropped on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on the 6th of August and the 9th of August in 1945. The Indian Air Force has launched its first ever multilateral air exercise, Tarang Shakti, in Tamil Nadu. And this significant event marks a milestone in international military cooperation, bringing together the air forces of the United Kingdom, Germany, Spain and France. Akshay Dongre reports.
India's first multinational air exercise, Tarang Shakti 2024, kick-started in Sulur, Tamil Nadu. German, French, Spanish and the Royal Air Force conducted air exercises with the Indian Air Force. The Chief of Air Staff of the Indian Air Force also participated on the first day of the aerial exercise along with his German counterpart. Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhry welcomed Lieutenant General Ingo Gerhards, the commander of the German Air Force, who flew in Eurofighter Typhoon.
Tarang Shakti is, especially for the three nations, France, Spain and Germany, part of a bigger deployment. We are deploying one time around the world this year, and it's overall 5 exercises. And for the German Air Force, it's the biggest and most complex deployment we ever did. But it's much more than doing a military exercise. It's partnering around the globe. I'm pretty sure the next 2 weeks, I take the Indian motto, so to say, we will touch the sky with glory.
All the air forces showcased their aerial prowess during the multinational exercise. India also showcased the growing might of its defense industry.
Over the years now, we have been having a lot of bilateral exercises with many of our partners and friendly foreign countries. For example, with the Royal Air Force, with the French Air Force, the US Air Force, the Singapore Air Force, we have almost an annual exercise with them, a bilateral, either within the country or we go out there. But we've never tried to have a multilateral exercise. We were quite satisfied with what we were doing, and the takeaway from each of the exercises was, good enough learning value for us. So this is the time we realized that it's time now for us also to host a multilateral exercise. From the experience that we gained, having taken part in such exercises across the globe, we wanted to put it in action here, and that's why we are here now.
In the exercise, nearly 30 countries will participate, and out of 30, 10 countries will join the exercise with their fighter aircraft. The exercise is being conducted in 2 phases, which aim to showcase India's defense prowess and provide a platform for participating militaries to foster interoperability.
Amid the fast-changing geopolitical landscape in the world, the importance of India when it comes to the Indian Ocean region, the Indo-Pacific, or the experience that it has from its conflicts of the past was exemplified, where the air forces from UK, Spain, Germany and France operated with the Indian Air Force here in Sulur, Tamil Nadu, where all of these air forces shared their experiences and tested their interoperability for the future alliances of these countries. With camera person SP Dubey, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Well, still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll discuss the evolving situation in Bangladesh with an expert. Hurricane Debbie drenches northern Florida, kills several people.
The one common theme between all major cities across the world is hope and the promise of new opportunities and possibilities that gravitates people towards them.
The reason why we advocate green transformations is because you can retain the building and you can actually modify.
There's a lot that happens when you extract sand beyond sustainable limits. It's going to change your course of your river, it's going to widen the channel, it's going to damage, and we are paying a big price.
We have 2 water reservoirs on 84 acres of land. During periods when the river water is non-saline, we store water in these reservoirs. Throughout the year, we distribute this water to residents.
Tiny houses are in vogue. Less is more. Many also assume tiny homes are more eco-friendly.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. India's External Affairs Minister delivers suo motu statement in both houses of Parliament on the Bangladesh unrest, says at a very short notice, Sheikh Hasina requested approval to come for the moment to India. US Vice President Kamala Harris picks Tim Walz as her running mate for the presidential election. He was first elected Minnesota governor in 2018 and then re-elected in 2022. Tension in West Asia intensifies. The Russian president asks Iran to avoid civilian casualties in its response on Israel. Tehran says its response to Hania assassination will be severe. And in the Paris Olympics, the defending champion Neeraj Chopra qualifies for the javelin throw final with an emphatic first throw just inches short of 90 meters. And returning to our top story on the situation as it's evolving in Bangladesh, we're joined by Dilip Sinha, former permanent representative of India to the UN and also former Deputy High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sinha. Now, the reshuffle of the army personnel, before an interim government is formed, what does this indicate? I mean, does it show that the army actually is running the show?
Well, the army is certainly taken over, and it was, we believe, on the advice of the army that the Prime Minister decided to resign. The idea to leave the country was, of course, as per her son's own statement, was based on the advice of the family members for her personal security and safety. But the army did assess the situation to be out of control and felt that unless major power was used and against the extremely widespread demonstrations, they would not be able to control it, and they felt it was best that the Prime Minister should resign. So the army is clearly in control of the situation, is an authority right now.
Okay.
And the army chief possibly wants to consolidate his own position within the army by this reshuffle to ensure that he is in complete control of the army before the army can take control of the law and order situation in the country.
Now, Dr. Mohammed Yunus is being urged to play a major role by the students who are backing him. Do you see the students, wanting to be part of the administration as well? They seem to be in a position where they're calling the shots as well.
Well, the students are a diverse group. And as happens in such major changes, if you can call it a revolution at all, some people are calling it a revolution, there is always a very disparate coalition that gets formed. But eventually it is some core group that emerges from within it. And here we have clearly the Shibir of the Jamaat and the BNP being part of the agitation. And eventually it is these organized groups that will take control of the situation. Now, Mohammed Yunus is known to be close to the BNP, to the former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. He has a very good reputation and he's a Nobel laureate, has worked very hard for the uplift of the poor in Bangladesh. But his political leanings are also quite well known, and that they will come into play in this scenario.
Ambassador Sinha, also, the country is large. It has 170 million people. There's a political vacuum currently. Though the president is de jure, head of state, there are occasions, when the office assumes more de facto control. Perhaps now could be one of them. I was reading through and it says that the caretaker government, for instance, the president has the power to control the Ministry of Defense. The president has the power to declare a state of emergency, the power to dismiss the chief advisor and other members of the caretaker government. What do you think? The president should be taking more initiative.
Well, it's unlikely that the president will be able to exercise the kind of powers that have been nominally given to him in a parliamentary form of government. In a parliamentary system, as you know, most of the administration is run in the name of the president. And of course, in the case of a caretaker situation, there might be extra powers. But here we have a situation where the law and order has to be first brought under control. And in that, the army has to play a role. And the very fact that the army is currently in control of the situation and calling the shots, the president will have to depend upon the army to help him out rather than the other way around.
What are the key concerns for India at this current time?
Most important concern for India at the present moment would be security of the Indians who are living there. There are quite a few thousand, 9,000 students, most of them who have come back. Another 10,000 or so other Indians living there. Their security is extremely important. At a larger level, the security of the minority community there, the Hindu community in Bangladesh, which often becomes a target of organizations like the Shibir. And then, of course, the Awami League itself, are the members of the Awami League who might be targeted and who would want to take shelter in India just the way the Prime Minister has, the former Prime Minister has. So we have a situation where these would be important concerns. And then, of course, the overall law and order situation, because if that deteriorates, then a larger number of people might want to take shelter in India, which would create problems in our country. In the longer term, relations between India and Bangladesh, which have become extremely strong and diverse between India and Bangladesh during the long term of office of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, that will come into play. Our traders who are involved there, our students who are studying there, all these factors will come in to at the individual level. And at the larger level, the security situation also, because there have been situations in the past when Bangladesh has become a safe haven for terror groups from India, insurgent groups from India. That should be, of course, a much more serious concern if the situation were to turn that bad.
Ambassador Sinha, China says that it's monitoring the situation. So what do you expect, from this kind of monitoring, or is it more than monitoring? Is it like mentoring?
It would certainly be much more than monitoring. We don't know the extent of involvement of any foreign power in the situation in Bangladesh. The commentators there are saying that it's been completely spontaneous and it's a people or a student-led movement. That may well be true at the moment, but the fact remains that it might be a coincidence, but the fact is that Sheikh Hasina had gone to Beijing. She had a rather not too successful, in fact, at times some people say an unpleasant visit there. She came back a day earlier, and soon after that, the situations turned violent in Bangladesh. Now, this could be a coincidence. It could be mentoring, as you mentioned. So one has to keep one's options open at the present moment. One can't come to a definite conclusion. But quite certainly, China's involvement in Bangladesh at the commercial and political level has been strong. And we will have to keep an eye on this.
What should India's next move be? Should India, after all, she has taken shelter, as we know, for the moment in India. And of course, you did mention all the concerns that India has with regard to our own people there, for temples that could be that are being targeted, even Indian museums. The Indira Gandhi Museum was vandalized. All sorts of things are happening there. How should India be relating to the current dispensation or the supposed dispensation in Bangladesh?
Well, at the moment, I think we should join the international community in appealing for calm in the country so that law and order is maintained, the people are safe, and normalcy can return. Beyond that, we'll have to wait and see what kind of government emerges in Bangladesh. We obviously cannot decide on that, but we have to keep a very close eye on this and try and ensure that the caretaker government that comes into office as appointed by the army at least continues the relations that have been established by the previous government, so that trade and other activities that have been taking place, transit, transport, etc., they don't get disrupted, because that will be bad for both Bangladesh economy and for India. So this is, I think, the immediate concern. And thereafter, we'll have to see whether elections are being held, if at all, and what happens in those elections.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Dilip Sinha, former permanent representative of India to the United Nations and also former Deputy High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Thanks for being with us. Now, the Hurricane Debbie has made landfall in Florida. It's on Monday, bringing widespread flooding and wind damage to the Anna Maria Island and across the Manatee County. Well, streets of Tampa in U.S. state of Florida also were flooded after the tropical storm Debbie dropped a deluge of rain in the region. At least 6 people were killed in the torrential rains and the floods. Hurricane Debbie also flooded neighborhoods in Sarasota County in Florida and has now been downgraded to a tropical storm. The heavy rains caused significant flooding, leading to the rescue of hundreds of residents as the storm moves north towards Georgia and the Carolinas. More rain, in fact, is expected on Tuesday. Aerial photos, they showed homes and streets underwater and hundreds of residents were rescued. In neighboring country of India, Nepal, a landslide has killed 7 in the Baglung and 4 in Gulmi. These are because of landslides, the fear of landslides looming also because of the forecast of heavy rain. The death toll from the separate landslides in Baglung has reached 7 and 4 have been rescued alive. In Badigad municipality of Baglung district in Gandaki province, 2 were killed when the landslide buried a house in the rural municipality. 9 and another 5 died in a landslide burying a house in rural municipality 10 at the Badigad this morning. 4, in fact, have been rescued alive from the landslide debris. 2 are said to be injured severely. 4 people died when a landslide buried a house in Gulmi on Tuesday morning. Updates from Wayanad in India. The search and rescue operations in Wayanad, it continues on a war footing on Tuesday as well, with no bodies found, though 7 body parts were recovered. The confirmed death toll is 224, with 189 body parts located. Officials are still trying to account for 152 missing people. Tuesday's efforts included 1,174 searchers, 84 earth-moving machines, and 1,126 volunteers. Dog squads from the police, army, and the Tamil Nadu Fire Rescue are also on the scene. Out of 18,000 registered volunteers, 5,400 are from Wayanad, and 140 teams are helping various people doing various roles. So over 150 medical personnel, in fact, they're professionals, are handling post-mortems, including staff and local medical colleges and hospitals as well. 16 relief camps have been set up, presently providing shelter to 2,225 people from 648 families which have been impacted by this disaster. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar met the Foreign Minister Dennis Douglas of St. Kitts and Nevis today in New Delhi. The leaders discussed expanding partnership to digital health, food security and capacity development. They also exchanged views on convergences as Global South in multilateral arena. The leaders also signed an MOU. This is to further intensify bilateral political consultations. Let's take a look at other stories making news in India. The Indian Space Agency, ISRO, is all set to launch the Earth Observation Satellite 8 or EOS 8 soon using the small satellite launch vehicle D3. Now, the primary objectives of the EOS 8 mission include designing and developing a microsatellite, creating payload instruments compatible with the microsatellite bus, and incorporating new technologies required for future operational satellites. New Delhi hosted the second Energy Summit on Tuesday, organized by the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. The event saw the participation of several experts from the energy sectors of both India and the United States. The summit is aimed at advancing the decarbonization of the Indian economy by 2030 in the context of climate change. A contingent of Indian Air Force has arrived in Kuantan, Malaysia for bilateral exercise Udara Shakti 2024 with a focus on strengthening ties, sharing maintenance practices and improving operational coordination between the two air forces. The Indian Air Force Su-30 MKIs will fly alongside RMAF Su-30 MKMs. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Neeraj Chopra sends out a warning to his fellow throwers. He throws nearly 90 meters in the javelin qualification round.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will decode the most powerful and advanced artillery gun systems, and we'll tell you why India's artillery is world's one of the very best. Designed to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy, India's artillery guns are unparalleled in accuracy and devastating firepower. These Indian systems have redefined the battlefield. This is India's artillery gun system, where strength meets strategy and victory is forged in steel. Watch all exclusive behind-the-scene footage of this amazing piece of artillery technology on DD India this Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Let's get you the sports news now. Yes, and we are beginning with news from the Paris Olympics, and let me start with news from the Paris Olympics. Yes, the Indian wrestler Vinesh Phogat has advanced into the semi-finals of the women's 50 kg event at the Paris Olympics. She defeated Ukraine's Oksana Livach in the quarterfinals. Phogat is one win away, in fact, from securing a medal for India. Earlier, Phogat had stunned the world number one and the defending champion Yu Sasaki of Japan in the round of 16. It's a historic win for Vinesh Phogat, as Sasaki had won the gold in Tokyo in 2020 without conceding a point. And this is also the first time that Sasaki has lost a bout at the international level. Wonderful news there. Now, great news also on the athletics front. Neeraj Chopra lived up to expectations as the defending champion, and he's qualified now for the javelin throw final, and he threw his best, in fact, at the Olympics. He threw his javelin a distance of 89.34 in the Group B qualification. This is Neeraj's best ever throw at a global championship, his second best ever. I mean, he threw 89.94 in the Diamond League in Stockholm. So, fantastic show there by both these athletes for India. Let's talk to Narayan Singh, who is going to put this into context for us. Narayan, so things are looking good, both for Neeraj and Vinesh Phogat. Likely medals then?
Definitely, Mark, the kind of performance of a team, especially Neeraj Chopra and Vinesh Phogat, delivered today. First, talking about Vinesh Phogat, what a monumental achievement we can say, registered today, defeating the world number one and the former Olympic champion, Yu Sasaki of Japan. If you take a look at her record, she has a international record of 82-0 till this fight against Vinesh Phogat. She was unbeaten, and she was also a four-time world champion. And we can say that defeating the 6th August have become a monumental day in the life of Vinesh Phogat, actually, because defeating a world #1 Olympic champion and a wrestler who is unbeaten in the international arena, never beaten by. And if you take a look in the Tokyo also, she never lost a point against any opponent, and against Vinesh also she never lost a point. So this shows the caliber of the Japanese wrestler. But the kind of performance, we can say that a monumental shift in the wrestling, because the breaking such iconic streaks, we can say that it is also shows a change of guard. And definitely today Vinesh has done something unimaginable and impossible that looks in the wrestling. But we can say that definitely she delivered at the moment, and now everybody is waiting for her semi-final bout where she will take on the Cuban wrestler, and definitely she is approaching towards a medal. If you take a look her Olympic journey, whether it is Rio or whether it is at the Tokyo, it was something disaster. She was not able to win the medals there, but it's a golden opportunity for Vinesh here to again register a fantastic win and book her name in the annals of the history, because what she has done today is something equivalent to impossible.
And what about Neeraj? His throw, the first throw, it was 89 plus. I mean, it looked like nobody was going. I mean, he set the standard now. Everyone has to catch up.
Definitely, whenever Neeraj is on the field, we can say that there is one and done show. He throw one and he just qualified for the finals. And this is the class of the Neeraj Chopra. We know that he is the defending Olympic champion, world champion, also the holder of the Diamond League. He has won every medal he can win on offer. So we can say that a lot of expectations are there from Neeraj, and he did the performance on the expected lines, and we are hoping that the kind of performance he has shown in the qualification, he will definitely continue this momentum in the finals also, which will take place on 8th. And all the expectations are from Neeraj. More than 1 billion people, we are wishing that he should win, he should defend a gold for the India in the javelin throw at the Paris Games, because we know that he has won everything, but defending, I think this Olympic gold will be the biggest achievement of the Neeraj career. The way things are going now, we can say that also there are extraordinary javelin thrower, Wadlake of Czech Republic, Arshad Nadim of Pakistan just made a fantastic throw, and Weber of Germany, all has thrown more than 90 meters. But whenever Neeraj is there, there is a contrast that whenever Neeraj in the field, we can say the final always, there is no 90-meter mark, no standard mark.
Yes.
Within the, under the 90,
yes,
under the 90s only Neeraj has won all his gold medals. So truly looking forward how the final pans out.
Okay, we're all looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Narayan Singh, for being our eyes and ears in Paris. Now let's move on. India has experienced a bittersweet journey at the Paris Olympics 2024. Marked by a record 5 athletes finishing 4th. The legendary badminton player Prakash Padukone also urged Indian athletes to take more responsibility. He spoke exclusively to Narayan Singh in Paris.
India secured 5 4th-place finishes at the Paris 2024 Olympics, the highest number in the nation's history. These near misses significantly impacted India's hopes for a double-digit medal tally. Athletes have expressed disappointment, noting that a 4th-place finish can be one of the most disheartening outcomes in major events like the Olympics.
एक तो सबसे ज़्यादा दुख होता है जो 4th पे रह जाते हैं, मतलब जो ब्रॉन्ज मेडल हार जाता है, मतलब थोड़ा सा के लिए एक मेडल चूक जाता है, लेकिन वही सबसे ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट भी है कि 4th में रहने के बाद इतना दुख होता है और हम लोग फिर आगे क्या करना है वो और ज़्यादा सोचते हैं कि और किस तरह से और ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग बने.
Meanwhile, Indian badminton legend Prakash Padukone said that athletes should take this as a time for reflection and improvement. He also acknowledged that the government had met all the demands of the athletes leading up to the games.
I think it's high time the players also need to, take responsibility. Like at least this Olympics and the previous Olympics, you cannot hold the federations responsible. You cannot hold the government responsible for the whatever good performance or decent performance or not so good performance, whatever you call it. because I think they have done whatever they can. Ultimately, everybody, even the federation, the foundation, the academies can only do so much. We can provide everything we can, but ultimately they also have to take responsibility and go and deliver when it matters the most.
On the other hand, former Olympian and Dronacharya awardee Sanjeev Singh highlighted that these fourth place finishes also reflect steady progress in Indian sports.
I think the mixed team finish of the fourth place was disheartening to some extent, because obviously you are missing the bronze medal by a whisker. At the same time, there's a ray of hope, because that tells you that you are already there. You're knocking at the door. Next time the color may change, the number of medals may change. So both may happen.
While the near misses hindered India's medal ambitions, they also highlighted the potential for future success. With the right focus on training, infrastructure and mental resilience, India's athletes are on the brink of breaking through and achieving even greater success in future competitions. Narayan Singh's report for DD India from Paris.
With that hope, we conclude this edition of DD India News Hour. But let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. That app is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.